Four Nations face-off last night. I got to check these refs. Are they affiliated with the Chiefs? I think the fix was in. McDavid gets the winner. Go figure. Canada. They get everything. Joining us now on the Wester Hotline. I'm just kidding around because Marty Biron's joining us on the Wester Hotline here. Just teasing. Marty, how are you? Thanks for hopping in here on short notice for me.
Well, you're teasing, but I think Canada should have been called for too many men on the ice in overtime. They didn't have 6. They didn't have 7. I think they had 8 at one point. And I know it's by the benches and that happens, but Braden Point was in on the forecheck. And they had too many. They let it go, and I can appreciate it. But if you have to think of, maybe that would have been the one power play the U.S. needed to win it.
That's fair. I forgot all about that. But, yeah, that was pretty egregious, I would say. Well, Marty, I know how much you obviously love the game, and I know what it means to your family. It has to feel good when the eyes of the sports world sort of descend on hockey in this way like they have over over almost the last 2 weeks here.
Yeah, you got to think that everything fell just perfect for the NHL and the NHLPA over the last 2 weeks because the Super Bowl happens, and then you're like, what, the NHL is going to go dark for 2 weeks? Like, no game? No. You have the world right there for you. But I felt like they stepped into the big stage, and maybe they got lucky, right? They got lucky with, the first game, Canada-Sweden. Like, if Canada doesn't allow Sweden to come back Wednesday 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago, and all of a sudden, like, it's not an overtime game and it's not the same buzz, does it carry over? Does it continue on Saturday night with the 3 fights in 9 seconds and everything? And if it's Canada-Sweden or Canada-Finland or U.S.-Finland or U.S.-Sweden, is it the same thing in the final? I will never know. All I know is that it was spectacular. It was fun. It was intense. It was emotional. It was physical. It was everything that they wanted to be and more. And the players really got to be congratulated for that because I felt like they put it all on the line.
I think that's absolutely right. I mean, the margins are so slim, right? I mean, he could have had a very different result if a couple of things go a different way, and that's right. I mean, even just competitively, that Sweden game, I remember watching it, thinking like, I'm not rooting for anyone really here. I just want to see a good show. And when Canada's up, I'm like, I really need a Sweden goal. I want this to be back and forth. And sure enough, there it was. And then there was another, and ultimately overtime. So. Yeah, absolutely
and
right.
The Sweden coach didn't help because I got angry for his lack of usage of Rasmus Dahlin right in game 1. Like he didn't play on the power play late in the game at 3-3 tie. He didn't play in overtime. So it got me fired up. So maybe I was even more emotional and intense with the whole thing because of the Sweden coach. And I think he didn't really get his team going the right way.
One of the main reasons I thought to reach out to you today, I mean, obviously the spectacle that we all just watched was tremendous. But Jordan Binnington, Marty, and just you heard Sean McDonough say it there. He did it again at TD Bank North Garden. I feel like mostly I'm in the group that just wants to kick him in the rear end all the time. A lot of it is because of how he handles himself on the ice during games. I just think he's kind of a loose nut. And I don't know how you handle your son Jacob, who's playing college hockey now. When Owen was playing, I hated anytime. I understood it; it can happen. But anytime he lost his temper, that was the thing I maybe most vocally criticized him about, or tried to guide him. Like, dude, get out of there. All your teammates are going to come rally if you take a swing at somebody or cross-check somebody, and you're going to get penalties, and it's bad. Just skate away. But Binnington is like a wingnut with that stuff. It's like he goes looking for it. So he's been one of my least favorite guys, but man, what a show he put on, especially in overtime last night.
So it's funny you say that because that is not anything about hockey or the positioning. It's more about how do you handle yourself as a person, right? Like I remember my dad never said much about my game. He was a coach and everything, but he let me do my own thing and he let the goalie coach do their own thing. But I remember one day I was with the Flyers and we played in New Jersey and I had a bad game and I got a voicemail after the game and I called him. I said, what's going on? He goes, would you get up after you give up a goal? Don't just sit there. Get up and get ready for the next shot. And I'm like, oh, like it wasn't about, hey, your angles and your stick or whatever. And I feel like you were the same way with Owen. And I feel like even though I played the game, like I don't want to so much tell my son, like, hey, you know what, your glove in or whatever. It's more about,
demeanor,
composure.
Yeah, right.
Don't lose your cool here. Like the game is on the line. Like it's almost like more of a human aspect of it. And when we watch Jordan Binnington, that's why I think it drives so many people crazy. Because even though you've never played the game or you don't know hockey that much, you watch him and you're like, what's wrong with him? Why is he going crazy? Why does he push this guy? Why is he flat? Like, so I've been pretty loud about the Adin Hill should have been their starter. And Canada could have won with Adin Hill. Now, I think John Cooper had a bit of a wager on, I want the guy that can make that big save in overtime if we get there in the final game. And who's that guy? Binnington, Hill, or Montembeault? And he picked Binnington. And he won the gamble that he took by having Binnington there. But Binnington in Sweden game wasn't that great. He gave up a couple of shaky goals to the U.S. Saturday night. Wasn't good in the third period against Finland. So it's like, when was he good? Overtime against Sweden, overtime against USA, and you win a gold medal. So it wasn't the best of Binnington, but that's who he is, and he's never going to change.
Yeah, I did you notice last night after all the the hoopla and the helmets and the gloves and everything goes flying and they're sort of gathering on the ice, ESPN cut away to a shot of Binnington and Cooper embracing, and Cooper and they stayed on it for a long time, and Cooper was talking the whole time to him in his ear, and I just thought, wow, what a moment.
Yeah, but think of John Cooper and him coaching Tampa, winning back-to-back Stanley Cups, and then going to a third straight Cups and losing in that one. But, I think Coop is also that guy, very arrogant, confident, and he likes those type of guys. He likes Nikita Kucherov. He doesn't like him. He loves him. Mm-hmm. And Kucherov is, sometimes you watch him and you're like, man, he doesn't care at all about this game. The effort level is a zero right now. And then some nights he's the best player in the world. And I think John Cooper loves that. And John Cooper loves to put it all on the line with Jordan Binnington. It's almost like he wanted that scenario so we can say how smart and how good John Cooper is. And I know Coop, and he's a great guy, but I think he almost was hoping for that scenario so that we can give him all the credit and all the accolades.
Former NHL goaltender, longtime Sabre, and current broadcaster here on TV for the games, and of course on the radio here with Sabres Live, noon to 1. Marty, I ran away from it so quickly. So you're on the Flyers. That's like near the. I mean, you'd played how many games by then? That's when your dad is calling you to complain about your posture or your demeanor. That's incredible to me. I love that.
Yeah, I remember I was on the bus, and we used to travel by bus between New Jersey and Philadelphia. It was an hour and a half, right? There was no need to take the plane and whatever. You go from Philly to Newark, and I remember him calling me, and that was before texting and all of that, so I had to call him on the phone, and he never said too many things to me about the game, but that was one that I recall. I remember my agent back in juniors. I was struggling my second year at the start of the year. I just got drafted in the first round. And again, it was more about the mental approach to the game. He's like, Marty, why don't you play each period in 5-minute segments? Because right now, you give up a goal in the first minute, and it's like you're thinking, oh, boy, the next 59 minutes are going to be tough. He's like, how about you only focus about the next 4 minutes? And then after that, you're going to get the next 5. And then, and my dad would remind me of that often. Hey, how was your 5-minute segments, last game? And that was just a mental reminder. And I thought that was, that's why maybe family members, they understand you more. They know you better. So sometimes they can just make sure they push the right buttons. But that was mostly our conversation. We rarely talked about the games and all of that, but he would always have these quiet reminders until one time where he was a little bit louder, like get off your knees and get ready for the next one.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think that's good practice for any hockey parents out there. At least as if you go up the levels and keep climbing, like let the David Leggios and the goalie coaches of the world handle the RVHs and all that stuff. And just like I'm out of the way because I don't know what the hell's going on anymore. Marty.
Well, it's kind of funny because you say that, and I had a conversation with Steve Sales. He's the GM in Ottawa now, but he was the GM with the Hamilton Bulldogs of the OHL years ago, and his son was about 17. And I said, hey, are you still going on the ice with your son and doing some stuff and, some skills? He goes, no. He goes, I stopped doing that when he was about 14 and 15. He goes, he doesn't want to hear me tell him, hold your stick that way, shoot, skate, do this. And then it's like, do your homework, clean your room. He's like, no. He goes, that's too much. He goes, I'm a dad at the rink. I'm a dad at home. I'm not his coach anymore. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Marty Biron on the Western Hotline with us for a couple of more minutes here. So pretty stark. In overtime, we've got Matthews with the puck on his stick in the slot, in pretty tight. Easy to say, get it over the glove. I think from that angle, maybe over the glove means over the net. He was in so tight there. So tough spot, but still great save, Binnington, and then the big save on Tkachuk as well. At the edge of the side of the net there, and then McDavid is all alone in the slot, farther out, a little easier to pick your spot there, and Hellebuyck couldn't get out far enough to take the angle away. But pretty stark. Like the best guy on Team USA has the game on his stick. The best guy on Team Canada has the game on his stick, and the guy on Team Canada doesn't miss.
Yeah, and when Matthews missed, when Middleton made the save, I thought, how does Matthews not elevate the puck? Like, you cannot hit the goalie in the pad there. Like, you got to elevate, and then you see the replay, and you think, wow, he actually elevated the puck. It was the blocker of Binnington that made the save. The save on Tkachuk was a good desperation save by Binnington, but it was a bad angle, and I don't know if it was going in or not, but it's more spectacular.
Yeah.
Now, I feel bad for Austin Matthews because I thought he had a fantastic game.
Me too.
And he had a great tournament. Despite the low production, he was physical. He was great defensively. He was usually the one that Mike Sullivan would deploy in tough situations, and he did a good job all game against Connor McDavid. I don't blame him for the last goal. Like, everybody said, McDavid was left alone by Matthews. I look at Adam Fox, and I'm like, where was Fox? When Marner has the puck in the corner, Fox was nowhere near. So Matthews is like, well, I got to go. And when he goes, Fox is like, I'm going too. And Adam Fox looked really bad in the tournament, I thought. So I don't blame Matthews. He tried to make a play. It just happened that when you make a mistake at that level, it's some of the best players in the world that end up with the chance.
I would have to admit, and I said this to Paul a little while ago, Marty, that I did not think of Matthews as a 200-foot player before this tournament. And I don't know if he changed his game or if I just haven't been watching closely enough when I watch him play with Toronto. I mean, I watched him play probably hundreds of times already in his career. And I just thought his 200-foot game was a revelation in this tournament.
And that's why I was hoping Tage Thompson was going to get a chance to go to the tournament because, you're put in different situations. Like Tage with the Sabres, he's got to score. He's got to produce offensively. Austin Matthews with Toronto, he's got to score. He's got to produce offensively. But in those type of tournaments, you're put in different situations. Like Patrice Bergeron was made for those events because he played the same way on Team Canada that he did in Boston, and then everybody recognized, wow, look at how great he can be, not just at the NHL level, but at the Olympic level as a defensive forward. But maybe Tage would have had that responsibility, and I wish I would have had a chance to see Tage in that situation. I bet you Tage goes next year to the Olympics. Like, Kreider, no. Vincent Trocheck, no. Like, there was a lot of no's on Team USA moving forward. I think that they'll make different selections.
Yeah, I hope that's right because I would love to see Thompson get the opportunity here to go represent the country. And the Olympics is really it's a bigger stage than even this. I mean, this was tremendous, but hopefully that comes to fruition. What are your thoughts as the Sabres are a couple of weeks away from the trade deadline and they're ramping their season back up here? Just real quick before we part ways, what do you think happens here? Zucker and Greenway, are they easy trades or easy contract extension candidates in your mind?
Well, I mean, I'd like to have both of them, especially Zucker. I think he's been great, right? And Jordan Greenway, the injuries are worrying me. He seems to have missed a lot of games, right? But when he's on the ice, he's definitely a factor. So I think you got to evaluate all of that. But, I mean, Lindy Ruff laid out the plan. You need to play 700, point percentage for the next 25 games, and then you have 3 left to try to get to 90 points. There's only 2 teams in the NHL that are playing above 700 point percentage right now. So is it a big hill to climb? Absolutely. So, yeah, maybe you have an opportunity to make some moves to say we're going to be better next year. I know people want to say, hey, next year has always been the broken record the last little bit here, but you still have to get better. So maybe you can get better, looking at a Greenway trade at the deadline, a Zucker trade at the deadline. There's still a lot of chatter around Bo Byram and Owen Power and Dylan Cousins. So maybe there's hockey trades to be made and rental trades to be made. I think Kevin Adams has got gonna have a busy 2.5 weeks here before March 7th.
Marty, thank you so much for answering the bat signal on such short notice. We enjoyed the visit very much. Very timely with all the events of the last few weeks here, and especially this tournament. Just fantastic. So thanks for this. Best to the family, and I hope to run into you soon, man.
Same to you. Thanks for having me, Bulldog. And yes, I'll show up to the porch beers in the spring when it's nicer.
That's a date. 100%. I will take you up on that for sure. Love to have you over.
I want to come up to the attic and see all them guitars.
There it is. Yes, I will make that happen, dude. You just let me know when you want to do it. Thanks, Marty.
Sounds good.
That is Marty Biron on the Western Hotline, going over the Four Nations face-off and also taking a brief look at the Sabres' way forward here. All right.